Welcome once again to our pastoral update, the first one of the new year of 2024. Wanted to talk about a new series that we began just this last Sunday called Risk is Right. It's based off a book by the same name by John Piper, and that just talks about the importance of taking risk in the Christian life. That sometimes we can have this mentality that in following Jesus, we should play it safe, and there may be times in which we need to use wisdom in that, but a lot of times following Jesus calls us to take a risk. In essence, it calls us to take a step of faith, to follow God into the unknown. And we see so many examples of that throughout the Old and the New Testament. And that's what we're going to be looking at over the next several weeks, is passages of Scripture that give us examples of people that take a risk, that step out in faith. Maybe it's Abraham and his call to go to a place that God's going to show him, or risk in relationships. This next Sunday, we're going to look at Jacob and Esau and how they're taking a risk. Jacob was taking a risk in reconciling with his brother that he had really offended in previous years. And so over the next several weeks and months, we're going to be looking at different facets of taking a step of faith or taking a risk. And so I'd encourage you to join us on these Sundays as we explore some of these different topics. And feel free to pick up the book as well, Risk is Right by John Piper. It's a short, easy read, but it's very challenging and a reminder that God calls us sometimes to do that, to step out in faith. But it's also a reminder of how God is always with us in these challenges. God is never going to call us to go somewhere that He's not already there, and that He's not going to be with us in that process. And that the reward of taking the risk is always worth it, as we're going to see over and over again throughout this series. But one of the other things I'm excited about with the series is we're going to get to hear from our people. Each Sunday, we've got different people that are lined out to be sharing testimonies of how God called them to take a step of faith or take a risk, and maybe the fears or the anxieties or the nerves that they had through that process, and how God was with them, how God brought them through, what they learned from that experience as well. So each Sunday we'll get to hear from different individuals and families here at Wedgwood of how God has been at work in them as they've taken a step of faith. And so I hope you'll be able to join us again over the next several weeks as we continue through this series. And this series is also connected to an initiative that we launched out last fall, this Bless strategy, the idea of beginning with prayer, listening to people, eating with them, serving them, and then looking for ways to share the gospel. And so this strategy is something that we're encouraging our folks to adopt as a way to just engage the people around them with the good news of the gospel. And it can be risky at times. It can be a little bit of a step of faith to talk with somebody or to serve someone or to invite somebody over to your house for a meal as a bridge by which you can share with them the love of God. But let me remind you, in this new year, as we're setting new priorities and new kind of routines and maybe new goals, to make it your goal to bless somebody this year, or to bless a family, or to a coworker, or a fellow student, or somebody that's in your circle of influence, to be willing to take a step of faith, to bless them, and to see how God uses that to not only help and encourage them, but to grow your faith as well. So that's it for this week. Don't forget, all of our Wednesday nights activities start back up again this Wednesday night. So look forward to seeing you there. And then, of course, look forward to seeing you this Sunday as we continue our series, Risk is Right. God bless.